Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome everybody here and thank you for coming. My name is Sandra Ung, and I'm the New York City Council for this district. I want to first thank PS24 for hosting us and Principal Cassidy. Even before I was elected, I have heard and spoke with many of you regarding the increase in flooding in our neighborhood. And just last month, I walked the area and spoke with many of you after a very early morning storm, resulting in more flooded homes. I visited Peck Avenue and Rose Avenue, which again, I saw some very familiar faces, and you were once again clearing out the flooded basements and airing out the water-soaked cars. At least this time, no lives were lost. I think we all remember just over a year ago, a family lost their lives on Peck Avenue. And my office afterwards also heard from homeowners around Kissena Park experiencing flooding, like Mulberry Avenue and the south of Park of 58th Avenue. And we know we do nothing, the situation only intensifies. Climate change and severe weather is becoming an everyday event. While walking the area and the petition that you sent to our office in July of this year, and I have the petition right here, I've heard many of your concerns and questions, and my office has reviewed the petitions, and that's why we organized a nice town hall to try to get you some answers. I know many of you have many questions, and you deserve to get answers for your questions. And that's why I, my fellow elected officials tonight, are hosting this town hall with representatives of DEP to get those answers. I just ask all of you to be patient. DEP is going to first give a presentation, then afterwards there's plenty of time for questions and answers. I'm going to just ask Shane, Alexander, and Lay from our office to raise their hands.
Hi.
If answers are not done by tonight, I know there's a lot of you here, please feel free to leave your information with them. We'll get back to you as soon as possible with DEP. So without further ado, I just want to thank again DEP for coming tonight. I look forward to hearing from you. And I also want to thank Kat Preston, who I know has been here since last year. She's also here tonight.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite Congressman Grace Meng and State Senator John to say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Congresswoman Grace Meng and proud to represent parts of Queens in Washington, D.C. And I want to say a big thank you to our Councilwoman Sandra Ung for putting together this very important event tonight to hear real solutions about how we can work with DEP in the city to help our community. Honored to be here with Senator Liu and I believe Assemblywoman Rosick later on as well. We have all been through the streets, especially here in Flushing, but I also want to acknowledge DEP's work. We were just together a few days ago in the Forest Hills section of my district, and thank them for their work and for being here to answer questions tonight. I know that this has been a really tough year for our district, our community. About a year ago, our community, especially here in Queens, suffered from Hurricane Ida. And my congressional district in Queens lost more constituents. 9 constituents died on the night of Hurricane Ida. And we know that we have continued to see an onset of damage and flooding, not just when there are times of hurricanes and floods, but even when there's like 15, 20 minutes of rain. We've had constituents call our office and show us and tell us about the traumatic damage that has been suffered. We've heard from countless families whose renovations just finished. They just finished their renovations, and some are still not back in their homes since Ida a year ago. And then when, I think it was the 13th, when there was less than half an hour of rain, all those renovations and so much of the work and money that people put in many cases their life savings, we saw damage and flooding and tears again. I do want to thank Kat from the Borough President's Office. I think when Kat walked in, Kat had like a fan club going on here because you and your boss's office were on the ground with our neighbors, so we really appreciate that. And, we just want to say that we hear a lot in the news about infrastructure money that Congress has passed. Republicans and Democrats, we brag about infrastructure money, but we want to make sure that we in Queens see that money. We are reminding the city and the state, and we've all written letters and talked to the city and state, that when they're putting together programs to help communities address climate change and infrastructure, they have to remember us here in Queens because we were disproportionately impacted from Hurricane Ida. I just want to say a little bit on the city level. So we want to remind the city to make sure we're putting money back in Queens. Sorry, I have a long list. This is like I dream this day in and day out. We've also written to the city to consider buyouts of some areas because we know that there are parts, and we would love for the DEP to help us take a look at this. We know that there are parts in Queens and throughout the city where infrastructure repair may not be sufficient. It may not be the answer. And so we are asking the city to consider that type of program, which has been accomplished throughout other parts of the city as well. And lastly, on the federal level, aside from infrastructure money, I worked with Senator Schumer and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to, we passed it in the House, it has not passed in the Senate yet, a special grant program that would go towards infrastructure and sewer upgrades for the borough of Queens and Queens only. So we're hoping that that passes the Senate. We've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers to continue the dredging of places like Flushing Creek. Also for FEMA, I am just as angry at FEMA as many of you are. We were glad that everyone from President Biden to our FEMA administrator came to our borough here in Queens, but we need more help. We have been working in a bipartisan way to make sure that FEMA gives more money to expensive cities like New York City and Queens. We need to be better compensated because it costs a lot more. And we got reimbursements that were almost a slap in the face, $5,000 in some cases for repairs that were 30, 40, 50, upwards of tens of thousands of dollars, and we can't accept that. And we're working with Congressman Nadler, who has a bill, because I know a lot of people in co-ops and condos and apartments, homeowners associations, have been left out with the FEMA reimbursements as well. So it's just a little report, but thank you so much to Councilwoman Ung for putting this together. Next we have our great state senator, John Liu.
I think so much has been said already. We want to hear from the DEP, but we'll just say that, every day, go to work, go to school, go to take care of our family members, and then we come home. And we expect home to be a place of comfort, where you can relax and not worry too much. But for too long, too many families in this area have to worry every time it rains. I mean, what kind of life is it when you have to worry about it when it rains? And then when it rains, you get water in your basement. I know the feeling. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. At some point, you know which parts of the basement not to put things in. But then every so often, a big rain comes, and the water gets into places that you never thought the water would get. And it damages your belongings, sometimes your priceless memories. And then sometimes the rain comes, like it has the last couple of years. Ida, but in other storms as well, where so much water comes in and it causes substantial amounts of damage. So much so that you have to throw everything out. You have to not only throw everything out, you have to deal with the lingering mold issues, the odor, and then you get all the promises from FEMA and other agencies about help. The FEMA money is hard to come by, as our Councilmember mentioned. The insurance companies say it's not their problem. And even if you wanted flood insurance, you can't even get it. It's so ridiculous. And then last year, the most horrific, unspeakable thing happened. People just relaxing in their living rooms. 9 people in Councilmember Meng's district. My district's a little smaller, but I had half a dozen people relaxing in the living room, watching TV. And suddenly, the water comes rushing out so fast they couldn't even get out, and they drowned in their own living room. This is what we're dealing with today. We have a lot of things to do. Of course, we have to pay attention to climate change, which is real. The state has passed historic legislation that puts New York #1 at the head of climate change protection for our communities. Thank you, Jerry. But it is also incumbent upon all of us to work together to find much more short-term solutions. DEP's here. DEP knows that they are in the crosshairs, right, Tommy? This ain't gonna be fun for them. But I encourage everybody to be as constructive as possible. Right? DEP can do a better job. But they are here to listen and try to bring back feedback so they can do the job. The DEP needs more resources so that they can get those sewer pipes installed quicker. That's Sandra's job, that's my job, that's Grace's job. We need to bring the resources. We're not out there, we can't go out there to fix the sewers, that's DEP's job. Our job is to pass the laws and the budgetary funding so that DEP can get that work done. So that's what today is all about. Please be constructive. DEP, we need you to get your colleagues up and running much faster. If you need more resources, let us know. But this is how we work together so we can fix this neighborhood. We're not going to fix the problem overnight, but we have to make strong strides and show everybody here that there's going to be steady progress to the day where we no longer have to worry every time it rains. Thank you, Councilmember Meng. And thank you to Sandra Ung. She's spearheaded this meeting. She's been at the forefront of protecting our families and homeowners. Thank you, Sandra, for everything you do.
Thank you, Senator. And one quick housekeeping rule again, DEPs are making their presentation. During this time, we will not be answering any questions. We will be answering questions after the presentation. So just wave your hand if you have a question, and one of my staff members will go out with you with the microphone. And also, as Senator says, keep the questions constructive, and please keep it as short as possible. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. First, Councilmember Ung, appreciate you inviting us here. It's a great opportunity to get the message out of things that are lacking in this area and things that we're looking at to get done. Senator Liu, Congressmember Meng, thank you again for being out with us last week. As you heard from your elected officials who have done a great job advocating and getting us sorely needed funding, this area has long suffered, and the entire city's sewer system was built for a different climate reality than we have now, and so this community is suffering even more with these intense rains. I'm going to go through a short presentation, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, and then we'll open it up for specific questions. So first, my name is Vincent Sapienza. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of DEP, so I'm in charge of the water and the sewer systems in the city. So just a little bit of an overview, and then we'll get into specifics. You know, the topography here is probably our biggest challenge. This is really, this community is at the bottom of a topographical bowl, and I'll show you some slides in a minute, but there are, as you all know, there are hills on both sides, and water wants to run downhill to the lowest point, and that's always been a challenge for us. The other thing is, too, the sewer system was built to a certain capacity. When it was built, you know, some of it going back to the beginning of the 20th century here, it was built to handle between 1.5 and 1.75 inches of rainfall per hour. And the recent storms we've had, Ida and a couple of storms this summer, and again, I'm going to show you some graphics, exceeded the capacity of the sewer system. And when that happens, the water has nowhere to go except run downhill, again, to the lowest point. But what we have done at DEP, and again, I'm going to get into details, we have initiated, we've hired a consultant to come in, look at the entire sewer system in this area. And again, it's literally hundreds of miles of sewers, looking at how we can improve the hydrological and hydrodynamic conditions to try to get more flow into the sewer and downstream more quickly. So we'll talk about that in a minute. And then we also want to look at working with parks. Maybe there's this on-site detention in Kissena Park. Maybe there's more green infrastructure we can put in. Anything to keep water off the streets.
大家晚上好这个先生在旁边，他是人生陈标者，他是我们的 CEO。今天晚上我们会说的是说河水在Kissena公园旁边未来的风暴和未来的准备是怎样。我们今天有几个 slide 看这个，我们跟大家讲为什么这一次的风暴和这些的水和这些东西，为什么是说那么难处理啊？为什么大家都有淹水啊？为什么你们感觉就是水排这些东西多大？
So I just want to show you, this is the radar image, and then where the flooding complaints were. In New York City, during the storm we just had about 3 weeks ago, on September 13th, where we saw more than 2 inches of rain in 1 hour. Again, it exceeded the capacity of the sewer system. But the colors here are the radar feedback from the storm. And unfortunately, this community was really the dead center of where the heaviest rain fell. And again, these dots were all the 311 complaints that came in. So we know there was a significant number of complaints for sewer backups, for street flooding. So again, you guys just had to suffer through this.
这个图来说的话是9月13号，它是每1公里之内有2千万，这些红点是311的那些所进来的那些投诉。 你可以看到说，你们这个区来说的话，红色是最严重的。
So as I mentioned earlier, this community really is at the bottom of a topological bowl with higher ground on both sides. So you can see where Kissena Park is. It's sort of the color, between 9 and 21 feet above sea level. Where the surrounding community, both north and south, some of it is 70, 80 feet higher in elevation than here. And so what happens when it rains, most of it goes into the sewer system during a moderate to small rain, but in a heavy rain, when the sewer capacity is reached, water can't get into the catch basins anymore. It flows downhill, basically. Water wants to find its lowest point, and it ends up in these blue areas that are at the lowest elevation. So that's another challenge for us that we're trying to get ahead of.
所以你们看到这蓝色的地方，这就是Kissena公园。你们是算最低段的这个，所以如果是有雨有什么的话，最低端的这地方你们是拿到最大的水的。后来绿色的地方来说的话，是比你们高80%到90%的。
A few months ago, Mayor Adams released these storm flooding maps of the city. I just took a little clip of this specific area, and these maps that are online, and I'll show you the link later to the website, are interactive, and you can put in different parameters. But I mean, the maps show where we get flooding complaints all the time, and no surprise to any of you, right at the foot of Kissena Park by the main entrance.
所以这一点来说的话，亚当市的这个市长搞了一个能上网的，让你自己看到你的那个区里面的话，如果是淹水的话，如果给你地址摆进去的话，你淹水的几率是有多大？这个是我们在这个区所照下来的蓝色的地方是目前来说的话，这个区最严重的一个地方。
So as I mentioned a little while ago, we've hired a consultant, a company named Dewberry, who does this type of work to help us better evaluate the sewer system. So the lines on the map just show where the sewers are. And I showed that top topographical map earlier where that low-lying band moves across. And that's actually where we have our largest sewers. Because, again, we want to operate by gravity for the most part. But what we're doing now is actually looking at the volumes of water during a 5-year storm that get into each of these sewers. We put in sensors. We're getting a better sense of where we need upgrades to happen, and then make those.
所以我目前来说，我们请了一个第三方来，现在来我们这个排水的这个排水道里面，看看我们这个排水的这个通道的这些管子，5年来说的话，它是能承受多少量的水？我们这个图上面有从0到5000个立的到25万个立的以上，这图上面就会显示它是怎么样的。所以这是我们现在5年的计划。
So that's a little bit about the things that DEP is doing to try to improve the infrastructure here. You know, we're certainly happy our elected officials lobbying to try to get more money for us. You know, the DEP, by the way, is funded exclusively through water bills. So, you know, everybody has a water meter in their house, they get a bill, they pay the bill. That's how we're funded. And it's always a challenge every year to try to get more money because that means we have to raise the water and sewer rates, and nobody wants to pay more money. So it's tough. We haven't had federal money since the 90s, so we're glad about the bipartisan infrastructure legislation. So that's good. The other thing is we're hopeful that the state will give us more money. And usually the way it works is the state has limits on how much each municipality can get as far as money. Usually $5 million or $10 million a year. And whether you're a municipality of 5,000 people, like a little town upstate, or you're New York City, you're still limited to that same $5 or $10 million. So the state has really not been fair to us here in the city for a long time. And so we're hoping, you know, with the new governor, we'll get some more traction.
所以有很多人不知道，纽约市环保局我们的费用来说的话，我们的 budget 来说的话，是你们的水呢，你们付水的排水的量的钱来让我们供应，所以我们跟其他机构不同，所以我们来说的话，纽约市来说的话是没有我们的 budget， 我们是希望纽约州可以多拨点款给我们或者联邦他们，因为这现在的infrastructure来说的话也对我们有大家有好一点的这些补贴，所以我们很谢谢。
So we wish we could make all these upgrades very quickly, but we know they're going to take some time. So I want to give 3 or 4 slides on things we can all do to prepare ourselves when there are heavy rains. So Mayor Adams also came out with a rainfall ready report this last spring. And it lists 4 key things that we can all do, both as the city and as residents. I mentioned those maps, those flooding maps that were published, so those are interactive. You can look for your property and see in certain conditions what might happen. So that helps you understand you know, what your risks may be. We implemented a flash flood plan so that before a storm occurs, when it's forecast, many city agencies can come together and take action to do certain things. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We've installed a lot of street flooding sensors and cameras and using cameras from other city agencies as well, so that we know immediately. And in our office in Lefrak City, our DEP office, we have big boards that give us information in real time so we can dispatch crews to go take action as necessary. And then the other thing is we want to, after a storm occurs and there may be damage, flooded basements, etc., have a better response from the city. We know during Ida, promises were made that weren't kept. We want to do better there. So,
所以我们今天来说的话，我们有在一个 very for very NYC 的一个博秀来给你们看，跟你们讲，我们有4样东西，如果是下大雨来说的话，或者有什么风暴的时候，我们可以让你就是说自己人来做的。第一个是说那排水管那些东西，可以叫你在上面清理啊，如果有沙袋这些东西，或者有防水袋的这些东西，可以摆在门外啊。如果不需要出门的话，或者不需要开车的话，留在家里啊。还有其他的这些资料，你从3方面都可以拿到。
So as I mentioned, building new sewers takes a long time, it takes years, sometimes decades to build these really large sewers. You know, and people ask us all the time, well, why isn't DEP going faster? And we actually, you know, with again, the funding we have, we go pretty fast. We get about $400 million per year for the sewer system, for new sewers or replacing old sewers. In the last 5 years, we replaced 125 miles of sewers or added, so about 25 miles per year of new sewers. So think about every 2 weeks, we're putting in another mile of sewer. So we have been moving along at a reasonable rate. If we had more money, sure, we'd like to do a lot more. We're doing a lot of work in southeast Queens that never had a storm sewer system at all. They just had sanitary sewers. So a lot of work has been going on there. But again, we want to do more, and whatever funding we can get, we're happy to add new.
所以目前来说，我们已经造了125个mile的那个排水管。我们目前来说的话，希望还能多造一点。目前来说的话，这5年来的话，差不多1个礼拜造差不多1迈的这个排水管。
One of the other things we're doing too is green infrastructure. So when it rains on a paved street, all of that runoff goes into a catch basin on the corner and into the sewer system. It's just a fact of life in the city that there's a lot of pavement. What we want to try to do is use the ground itself to absorb that rainwater rather than it running down the street and getting into the sewer system. So we've been installing a lot of these curbside rain gardens. We have about 11,000 of them now in the city. And it looks like just some bushes and a tree, but underneath the ground is actually an engineered system that absorbs about 2,000 gallons of what would have been run off into the sewer, and then slowly percolates it into the ground. So we want to do a lot more of this. It's not going to help in all flooding situations, but any amount of water that we can keep out of the sewer system is certainly a benefit.
所以我们目前来说的话，纽约市已经造了1万1000个这个 green infrastructure rain garden， 有时候在街上街边看到的这个。这下面来说的话，这些树啊，这下面它是有一个排水道的，它是希望能给水轮到排水道里面，另外呢，去其他的条件能走掉这些水。
So I mentioned earlier now, before a storm occurs, when the weather forecasters say, hey, there's going to be thunderstorms in a day or two, DEP and other city agencies now go out to areas that we know regularly flood, and we'll go out and do things like make sure the catch basins are clean, check the sewer system to make sure that everything is ready to go, and this is just some of the work that you will start to see now as time goes on.
目前来说的话，我们现在会用这些，就是如果你那个排水道或者外面这些东西塞住的话，我们会拿这些车子来去挖或去清理的。希望你能打塞高的话，我们这些都会出来清理。
This is just more of the flash flood emergency plan. So the entities that DEP works with are DOT, Department of Transportation, DSNY, Department of Sanitation, and the MTA. As we know, we see flooding on subways, and we want to try to reduce that.
不同机构，我们纽约市环保局会一起合作的是拉叙局MTA DOT 这些机构。我们如果是有大下游的这些东西的话，我们会跟他一起出动。
So I mentioned before, one of the things that we do now at DEP is we have real-time data coming in. So as flooding is occurring, we can instantaneously see where it's happening, when it's happening, and we can dispatch crews more quickly. In the past, it was someone would call 311, and maybe hours later or a day later, we'd get out there. But we're actually now seeing what's happening in real time and are able to get out much more quickly to make adjustments as needed.
所以我们现在环保局来说的话，我们这些东西都可以用原始的时间看得到。如果是有什么水灾有什么就是有些排道塞的这些，我们是用真实的时间能看得到。
The other thing, and you see this picture here, which I wanted to show. So DEP has a regular program to clean the materials that are inside the catch basins. Materials accumulate over time, and we have a program. We have about 150,000 catch basins in the city, and in residential areas, we'll clean them maybe every 2 to 3 years. Along commercial strips more frequently. But the bigger problem isn't what's in the catch basin in that box below the street, but what's on top of the catch basin. And often we see a lot of street litter that blocks the top of the basin. That prevents water from getting in too. There are 150,000 catch basins in the city. DEP doesn't have nearly enough people to get out there. So we ask members of the community, if you do see trash on top of the basin, if you could just please remove it, sweep it up, rake it up, put it in a bag. That certainly helps. We also, DEP, we take $30 million of that water bill money that we get, and we give it to the Department of Sanitation every year so that they can try to keep the streets litter-free as well.
那这照片来说的话，这是我们一个你在街上会看到一个排水道。大部分排水道来说的话，我们是会拿那机器来捞里面的东西来处理，可是很多都是在上面的，所以我们是说，如果你们有看到的话，上面是有垃圾或者什么的话，给它捡起来摆在垃圾桶里面，这样子也会帮我们。除了这个，我们是跟垃圾局合作的，所以他们也是会帮我们有时间的话多清理这些东西。
And so I mentioned earlier some of the resources that we have, some of the links where you can get information, and you know, we'll make sure we put this on our website and hand out some copies as needed. We'll get them to the council member. These are just some of the websites that you can get to. And I'll move ahead, Tommy, and I'll just give it to you for the end. And then how we also get messaging out through social media, and then we have folks here. You met Tommy Lynn, Karen Ellis is here. They're always available. Certainly by email, but by phone as well. If you have any questions or want to just let us know about a problem, they're available.
最后一个是我自己介绍的说的话，我是康明的，我是环保局环保局的代表。我们的社区的主任这我刚介绍过了，跟标的。 是我们的 CEO 跟我们一起来的，有 Vito 跟 Richard， 他们是专门做我们的就是field 的，就是 field operation。如果你是打来，我们来给他们，叫他们处理清理的这些，谢谢。
I mean, I should mention, you have folks from our field operations here who can help answer specific questions. They're out every day, so they know more than I do. So, Councilmember, yeah, we're ready for questions.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. So, one quick housekeeping rule. Any questions, please line up over there where Alexander is standing. Shane, Alexander, they're raising their hands. Please line up over there. I do have one question. The sewage upgrade, the ones I see in the blue area, is that being planned for this area? And if there are plans for that, if so, do you think that would at least alleviate some of the problem?
That's a good question. You know, and lots of people maybe hold this up. Yeah, so these are some of the, and again, I showed one small area, but these are all online now, these New York City stormwater flooding maps. Again, we published them online a few months ago, but it helps people identify where the problems are, and it also helps DEP and the city to understand where infrastructure investments are most needed.
So following on your answer, is there infrastructure investments in these areas right now?
And so, Councilmember, that's the study we have with the consultant, Dewberry, who's looking at what is needed, and then we'll try to secure the funding to make it happen.
Thank you. So you'll definitely be following up with that. Before we go over there, does the Congresswoman have any questions?
我们市议员Sandra Ung刚问我们的那个局长来说的话，他是问我们刚刚那蓝色的那东西，是说你现在说的话，是你们这个区来说的话，最严重的水害的这些东西，我们目前来说也 来帮你来处理这东西。我目前来说已经请了一个第三方的一个调查者来说的话，就是看看这个东西是怎么样能帮助你，怎么样能计划，看看这个水拍，如果我们是要装大一点的，或者有排水量多一点的，我们现在我们在计划来看study。
Hi everyone, my name is Jen. I do not live in this area. I'm from North Flushing, which is like 15 minutes away or whatever. I know that you said it's going to take some amount of time to fix the problem. I'm wondering if you could put a time frame on it. My home has flooded numerous times. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on repairing the filth and the damage. And it just happened again with the last storm, and I cannot submit to my insurance out of the fear that I would be dropped. Now, why should I be penalized like this when I pay taxes every quarter? When is it changed for me?
Thank you, Jen. The question I just want to, was it storm flow that came over the street or up from the basement?
Storm flooding that came out of my toilet with feces and from my shower.
In the basement?
Covering my basement, yes.
Yeah. So that's another thing, we want to raise. So basements are always a challenge. Some basement fixtures, people have showers and toilets that are actually at or near the level of the sewers in the street. They're below grade. So what we recommend to people, and what a lot of people have started doing, is putting in these check valves to only let the sewage flow in one direction. It's actually, the building code requires it, that if you have a basement with plumbing fixtures, you're legally required to have it, but it's a recommendation, and we think more people should do that because...
Okay, that's great to know, but I do want to let you know my husband is a licensed plumber. He has all of that. We have the French drains, we have everything, and we still got flooded.
The check valve.
Yes, we have everything.
So, but sewage still came backwards from the sewage.
I mean, we like I said, we've had this problem ongoing. My husband is a genius. He did everything the right way, but we still got water.
We're happy to take a look, Jen, and see if we can figure out a solution.
You'll give me your card and your number?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
这里还是刚刚说的是，它来说的话，它的 basement 来说的话，也是有马桶。它马桶因为这次的水灾也是有升上来水。他问了我们的局长来说的话，为什么会这样子？我们局长回答的是，你有可能你的马桶跟我们的排水的是同一个 level， 所以他是说你有没有装这些 check valve 这些东西他所跟我们局长说的都是有，跟我们局长就说，他另外再跟我们这些来聊，看看你怎么处理他的问题。谢谢。
Good afternoon, my name is Omar, and I have a question for you. When you begin your new infrastructure, is it possible for us to monitor your design research as well as have a copy of documents? Because I feel that for the past 3 decades, every attempt has either been deceiving or nothing has been done. It has been kind of cheap work related to our neighborhood sewers.
Absolutely, and as this study progresses, we'll certainly make those resources, we'll put them online. We'll make sure that the council member has them as well if there are any questions. And again, we're happy to do more of these just as that work progresses. But I agree, the level of investments needs to certainly be increased.
对这些都问到了，我们现在来说的话是说，我们现在准备在装这些东西，你们可能说你们做人民来说的话，可以看我们是怎么装的，或者有什么网站或者就是说你政府来说的话，你是跟你说你要帮我们装这东西，我们怎么能监督你或者帮你看着你到底是怎么样装？我们就说我们可以，我们有一个网站，刚刚我们让 KTV 的，还有我们以后这些人民论坛，我们也愿意继续再讲，谢谢大家。
Hello, my name is Chris Lorenzo. I live right across the street from Kissena Park, where your free school capsule was exploded. That, you're pumping the water there and you can't take it. So you're pouring the water into our houses. That's number one. Number two, I have sewer catch basin right in front of my house. It's the only one for a block and a half. I'm getting water from around the block. It's coming, my house, I've flooded 5 times since I had it. 6.5 feet, the last one was 21 inches. Now, if I'm not home and I don't clean my catch basin in front of the house, like I was out last week from 10 o'clock till 12:30, sitting there with the rake keeping it clean, my house floods. I've spoken to you. I've spoken to numerous people in your department. You send the bucket over, you clean out the top. My sidewalk has collapsed. I understand the problems. My street is actually concrete now from the water. That both sides of the street is downwatched. So the water just flows to the left. So my house, my neighbor's houses all take water. And that's on a light rate. Because if I'm not home to clean that catch basin, I'm getting a couple inches in my house. Now, is any catch basin going to be put, I mean, you're talking a block and a half with not one catch basin, it's insanity. You're asking for us to flood. Is there anything about that that's going to be addressed?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I remember, the chat we had, our commissioner did a walk around a couple of months ago there, and we did identify coming down the hill. He said, yeah, we can put more catch basins in. We're looking at that too. The street grading issue is another thing we started to talk to DOT, and I'll follow up with them. We did definitely identify that as everything flowing onto your side.
We're talking since 2018, I've been addressing this, and I've yet to have any answers. I called up DC, they gave me the person in charge over here. I sent a message there, I haven't heard from nobody. So it would be nice just to be told something. We're not being told anything except it's raining, get your ass home to clean out this catch basin, or go and deal with the flood in your basement. There's gotta be something done.
We'll make sure, Peter, you were out there, so we'll make sure we
So I at least keep us informed. At least I've called, I sent 311, they said, don't worry, we're gonna have something called. That's been a month. Twice. No one's called.
That's unacceptable.
Okay, thank you.
所以对今天他来说的话，他是在Kissena公园的对面。他是说他前面有一个排水道，他的房子已经被淹了好几次了。但是今天我们来说的话，他整条街来说的话，一个block里面它都是没有其他的排水道，所以我们来说的话，我们会实际先跟他聊。谢谢。
Hi, Mr. Sandra Ung. We know each other for a long time. I used to work on the 3rd floor at DEP, and I know the situation. I know how the design is supposed to be, and what is the problem of the city's sewer. So in your presentation, you said that our area is 21 feet above mean sea level. Even though, yeah, it's true, like the highest point might be 80 something, above mean sea level, but it doesn't mean that our elevation is low. It's 21 feet above mean sea level. And it's not because we are in a low elevation that we have to deal with the flooding. It's because the sewer is not designed to capacity. Okay, according to the report I read recently from the OMB, your sewer can only take 1.75 inches per hour. And I've been in the DEP, I've been taught that in doing design, the criteria to design a sewer is 5.95. If you divided that number, the sewer you can take for our area is less than 1/3 of what it's supposed to do. That's all our suffering comes from. And also, DEP is existing because we have the administrative code, Title 24, Environmental Protection and Utilities, Chapter 5, Drainage and Sewer Control, Section 24-503, Drainage Plan. The Commissioner of Environmental Protection shall devise and prepare a plan for the proper sewage and drainage of the city, as far as the same has not already been done, for the purpose of thoroughly drinking and carrying of water and other matter. And this is the law that is required to do for us. But it has been 26 years. Nothing has been done. We have been lied to. You said you did Kissena Park down the stream has nothing to do with the problem we have. And I know the situation. In order to build that detention camp, DEP give the Parks Department the whole facility, the recreation facility. And I was one there. I'm sorry to expose that because I'm so frustrated. It's so long already. You spend like $2 million to search for that sewer. Nothing has been done. And if you said that you have built 120 something miles, why nothing is done for our neighborhood? One sewer is built.
Thank you for your research. Thank you. Appreciate your research.
Well said. We know each other a long time, and I've been hearing, the information that you've been conveying to us about, where you are, impact. It's correct what you say. The sewer system was designed for 1.75 inches per hour. We've had storms that have regular leaks did that, and we know that we need to put in new infrastructure, and that's what the study is doing. And hopefully, we'll finally have the money to do it.
I'm an engineer. I'm a type licensed engineer, as you know, right? I used to do sewer design. I'm still doing utility design. So I wish that you can give me that information so that I can have a check and look at it on the design because I don't trust. I asked for this drainage plan. I asked for the existing spill records, and asked for the study reports. I want all of that information that is available to us.
We will make everything available. We'll have regular meetings with the community to walk you through the process as well.
Okay, thank you.
所以对女士来说的话，她也是住在这区的。她是说我们的排水道来说的话是1.75的，一个钟头能用这个铝的，为什么不能扩大这个东西？我们根据上说，我们这个东西在study目前来说，就是要看看怎么扩大这个东西，我会跟你们汇报，谢谢。
Thank you for coming and listening to our concerns. I think it is related to ask for minutes. You show the basement very different. The process the problem is, I think the main problem is the maintenance. Nobody's doing. Nobody's doing what they call it, right? Okay? Nobody's over 5 people. And that's a big problem. I mean, against we have new neighbors over here. They finish it, they spend thousands of dollars, and this they spend money. And this is install something in the basement, that is not cheap. So it's $15,000. Nobody has $15,000. The court about a couple of weeks ago, they're going to come and leave right away. What are you going to do? 5 years? We have to wait another 5 years? Yeah. So, when are they going to come and clean?
So you're saying cleaning the catch basins on the corner?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have a regular cleaning cycle, and if your catch basin hasn't been cleaned for 5 years, that's a problem because we're required on a cleaning cycle to certify to the city council that they've all been cleaned at least once every 3 years. So if you have that, let me know, and I'm going to get on some.
I'll let you know right now.
Yeah, okay. Well, but again, one of the other things, again, is basements. And as sewers fill up to capacity, sometimes the water gets above the level of the connection to the house into the basement. And if there are fixtures there, if there are toilets, if there are showers that are at the level of that sewer in the street, that's where the water's going to seek its own level and come out.
Even if you don't have a finished basement, you have to have a second thing.
It's more again.
Everybody has to feel water.
We're in a a city that is challenged to find housing for people, and a lot of people have converted their basements to actual living space. People are living down there. You heard from your elected officials that people drown. So we do take this very seriously. Again, we want to, as we get additional resources, make those improvements.
Somebody even debate on we have to pay for the price of that. And I share some break just to people living in this. I haven't spent that.
Thank you. But please let me know, please let them know about the catch basin. That wasn't for me, because I want to get on there.
这先生所说的是他有一个他知道，他知道有差不多5年没有清理。我们来说的话，法律上来说的话，是每3年一定要清理一次的。所以我们向他要他的地址，我们会跟地址，让他知道有个清理。谢谢。
Good evening. Thank you for providing this hearing. I am a homeowner, live on Kissena Boulevard since the early 70s. Over the years, we had a little seepage in the basement, but nothing really bad. 10 years ago, we got some water through the toilet in the bathroom. That stopped pretty quickly. But over the last 2 years, especially after Hurricane Ida, it was gushing out. And we've had hurricanes over the last 30, 40 years, so I would suggest that the sewer system needs to be cleaned out even more than it has been. Now, in terms of FEMA, they provided me with a suggestion about the check valve. I don't know if the audience understands what the check valve does, but I intended to put one in, but I figured I had time since it doesn't happen that often. Well, it's twice in 2 years now. The check valve keeps water from coming in from the street and allows you to flush and have water leave the house, go into the sewer. So it's a valve that flips. And I spoke to a plumber recently, he said get a 4-inch flat valve that's accessible so that you could actually clean it. And he said that his company could do it. One of my questions is that are there specific companies that can do this? Because he actually was there for my hot water heater. My other question is that I'm paying every year money for my sewer line to guarantee that if the sewer line breaks or whatever, that I'm covered. Can any of that money be put toward the check valve? And the other thing that I asked our members of the political class, our politicians, is that some cities subsidize these check valves, the placement of these check valves. My neighbor said she had a plumber come in for her house that estimated $1,100. Now some people can't afford an $1,100 cost. There's 2 kinds of ways of putting it in. Apparently the diagram showed you could put it in from inside the house, but there's others that require you to break through the concrete. So the actual valve doesn't cost that much, it's the labor. So I'm asking that you provide information for us about the check valve, and our politicians that are able to look into this thing, see if there's ways that we can subsidize the cost of these check valves. I mean, they may not always work, as one of the people mentioned, that husband's a plumber and he's placed all these valves in. But for Hurricane Ida, I just stuffed a pillow into the toilet and that stopped the flow. So, I mean, if I just stuff a pillow in, a check valve should be able to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll start with the heavy rains. And Ida, by the way, was the largest hourly rainfall in recorded history in the city. Central Park was 3.15 inches per hour. Parts of the Bronx and Orleans Peaks got almost 4 inches per hour. It just exceeded the capacity of the sewer system in the entire city, unlike anything else we've seen. And then this summer we've had, not quite that much, but the storm I mentioned, September 13th, more than 2 inches in an hour. The city sewer system, again, is between 1.5 inches and 1.75 inches an hour. And once the sewer is full, the water has to go somewhere else, unfortunately. Regarding the check valves or these backflow preventers, yeah, again, it's been in the building code for many years that if you want to put fixtures in your basement, you got to put one in. I know a lot of people have it. It's good to do. It's required, but they are expensive. And yes, we're happy to work with the council to see if there's a way that we can subsidize that. And I can't recommend anybody, any licensed master plumber should be able to either do it himself or tell you what to do. Thanks.
这个先生们来说的话，你如果是有排水要进你房子的话，你可以怎么样？我们有来说的话，有一个 check valve，你可以叫你那个工程师或者 plumber 可以去帮你去装，它这个东西会让你这个排水在那里会停住，不会再往回流所以来说的话，可以找一个 master plumber， 他问你有没有什么可以介绍的。我们来说的话，我们这机构会介绍某一个公司或者某一个机构。或者某一个人让你去做，谢谢大家。
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to add that we, on a federal level, are looking at legislation to see if there is anything like that could be created to retrofit to help homeowners make their property more storm resilient. Because you're correct, these are very expensive costs, and it's really hard for the average homeowner to pay for it. So we are looking at that, and in fact, I hope I'm not leaking anything, but we had a very helpful walk through another part of my district with the DEP commissioner just last week, and he also asked the federal government to look into creating a program or grant like this as well.
Just one last thing on basements. We heard about FEMA earlier and how they barely give any money in. The reason is that FEMA considers a basement to be not a living space. Maybe you have your hot water heater, your boiler, a washer and dryer. That's all they're going to pay you for. They don't. But again, in New York City, everybody has their basement as a living space, and so that's another thing that we can see if there's any flexibility at the federal level to address.
就刚刚国会议员穆道文说到，他是在联邦这个level 来说的话，也是看看有什么法案或者有什么基金可以帮助你们小商业者或者小屋主，因为他知道这些东西来装的话是要很多钱的，也很贵的。我们来说的话，我们也是说，非法为什么就是联邦帮助你这个机构来说呢？为什么他大部分不会给你赔偿？是因为他们感觉 basement 或者来说的话，是不是人是能住的一个地方？对他们来说的话，他们大部分如果你住在 basement 的话，他们是不会给你赔偿的。
I'm just going to jump in here. Hi, Kat Bresler from the Borough President's Office, Dominic Richards Jr. I just wanted to address some folks are looking for some more assistance, and HRO does have a program called IDA Assist. I have my cards that I can help folks navigate that, but it might avail some more funding that would be matching grant to what you got for FEMA or as you're rebuilding for catch valves and for heat, stuff like that. Also, we were just discussing, as folks are trying to come up with ways to make their home on their own property more resilient, you might want to think about liberating the soil wherever you are. If you've covered your backyard in cement or your front yard in cement, you're helping that flow of water off your property and to build up in the community. So if you copy DEP's model for rain gardens in your backyard or in your front yard, you might be looking at making your property more resilient.
大家好，他来说的话，他是 Gay President， 他是皇后区长办公室。他来说的话，他那边在桌子上也有其他的机构叫 HR， 也有可能可以帮助你们这次水灾的话，如果还需要赔偿的话，联邦赔不够的话，他那边可能有个 program 可以帮助你们。还有你们来说的话，如果你的地来说的话，外面是用砖做的话，你可以不妨想一想说用泥土来做。 或者用收来做，它这来说的话，用我们跑来说，可以给水啊吸收掉，谢谢大家。
And I just want to add to Pat's point about pavement on private properties. And again, I know there's no street parking, and everybody's looking to, put their cars somewhere, but the New York City Building Code actually requires residential properties to have a certain percentage of the lot be green space. And the more and more pavement there is, the more and more runoff that gets into the sewer system, and that's a continuing challenge.
所以我们局长来说的话，他还是跟这个所刚刚说的，就是你如果是用砖啊还是什么来造你的砖位或者什么的话，它不会帮助水河流，来说的话，你如果用土来做的话，有可能会好。
I'd like to say thank you for coming and Councilman for coming to help us out. But I'm thinking we need more assistance. DEP is helping us. I need parts of recreation to come into the party because trees are also a big factor where leaves fall covering the sewage and then that's where flooding comes. Why don't get parks of recreation to come in? I opened many 311 calls about leaves covering big trees hitting my roof. Who's going to check that? They keep saying that the tree is healthy. They have leaves. But leaf doesn't mean that it's not causing damage. And it's actually, when a branch falls down, it kills people. Rain, flood, anything that happens that can happen, life-threatening. So I don't know if we could set up something where parks and recreation is contributing, because that's something that they usually work with. Besides DEP did a lot of work, but I wanted to be more transparent. As in, okay, we're not a little bit lower. So the lower level is where the park area is. We're not considered the lowest elevated area, but why am I being flooded and the lower level actually not extreme flood anxiety? So I'm wondering, is this something related to how you do it? We have the engineers, architects in the community that can give advice or help with the situation so you can make your process work faster. I think a lot of the lady mentioned about a pipe is not in guideline. So if that was notified earlier, I think the funding should go into refunction better pipes, not making it longer. Making it longer, that doesn't resolve the root of the cause. Just making delaying the things to happen again. So we need to find a way to solve the root, not just to push it further while come up again. That's my first concern. The second is neighborhood safety. After the flood, we have to clean our basement. Our gates are open, our fences are open. We're doing cleaning. Some robberies does happen, and that's happened to my house before. So what kind of police activity where we could get NYPD involved to make sure the neighborhood is safe? We noticed recently there's a lot of people just sitting downstairs. They're not in the neighborhood. We know all the neighbors around. If we know somebody not in the area, our neighbors will notify us. We don't, my parents don't know what to do, they're elderly. They call me, what can I do? I'm at work. So if there's some police activity, that would be some helpful thing to help the neighborhood be more safe. Besides, we doing cleaning already hit with a lot of emotional impact. So that's one thing that I hope somebody can help me, councilman. I guess the flood valve, I think that's a good suggestion. So this funding regarding every household, DEP could send somebody like Canada and people to put the sensor here. DEP comes to every household to check if the valve install is correct, or recommend some vendor that we can use with some discount from FEMA. That will help us out. Every house should be protected in some way to preventive maintenance. So I think that's some kind of way we can help out.
Thank you. We'll take those questions to Parks and NYPD back to them.
这先生出了3个问题。第一个，他是说他希望公寓局下一次来说的话，公园局下一次来说的话也会来的，因为他是说这些排水道的这些东西，有的是树叶或者树根这些卡住的，他们应该来这些论坛来说的话，所以他就要求我们是看看下一次他们可不可以来。第二个问题，他所说的是人民的安全，他们这一次因为这个淹水很多人为什么都淹了？大部分的门都开着，很多东西有的小偷给他东西都偷了，都不知道发生什么事。所以他是看可不可以要警察局或者警民这些人员来扶持一下。第三个，就我刚刚说到的那个Kissena Park，他是希望就是环保局如果有这东西来说的话，我们可不可以去检查？跟联邦来一起合作，希望每一家每一户都有这个东西。谢谢大家。
Just regarding the NYPD issues, you can come and flag an area if it's if you feel like it's dangerous for either me or for letting in the back, then you can flag with the 109 precinct.
Hi, my name is Ivan. I'm living in this neighborhood for 3 decades already. I'm very glad today because we hold a meeting from government, from Congress, state, and cities try to provide funding to resolve this problem. I just saw DEP of the office, already providing information, knowing the problem. And look at the community, we are expect to have a solution right now. But unfortunately, from your presentation, the DEP presentation, I don't see can solve our problem. I'm really sorry to say that. We need a solution right now, not another 20 years later, when the city, another $50 billion to build a very, fancy surrounding the new area. But we cannot wait at all. Because look at the water go to our basement. That's all the virus, like COVID-19 or everything we have in our basement. Every day we try facing that kind of pandemic problem, do you understand? Not just who living in the basement. Whatever virus in our basement, we cannot clean up. So that's our problem. That's the biggest problem. You're already killing a lot of people if you're not continue moving fast pace. Right now you're facing a lot of pandemic problems in our community. Look at uphill people enjoying fast-paced development. Low-hill people suffering from it. It's very unfair. We pay every single bill, including sewer, state tax, city tax, and federal tax. So from my understanding, from the revenue we pay the sewer, we should have enough budget to do a finance to build our better sewer system. Of course, from whatever analysis you provide, I'm sorry, did not have a home. So when I go to elementary school and even go to college, teacher always reminds, if you want to solve a problem right now, you have to think outside of the box. Look at this picture. Do you think the water just come from the shore? No, it comes from the street. Whatever pipeline from you extend to 4 doesn't solve the problem. Because look at the weather, all the rain in the entire area, not just shore. If you look at the solution for the worldwide in South China, they try to, even in Singapore area, they try to separate shore and the rainwater in 2 pipeline systems. Why? Because they realize that all the storm water much bigger than the shore. You cannot compare it. So that's why in this community, it is shown the solution right now. So from my understanding, the budget is not a problem. Even from the government or even from our revenue stream, we do a finance. I was in the public finance department for 5 years. That was a good years ago. From my professional experience, just based on the revenue stream, we can have enough money to solve the problem. So when you try to solve problem, you need to consult our community. From my understanding, the best way to resolve this problem is build all the temporary pool in the open area, like sport, build all underground with the pool. That one is just temporary store all the big storm. We have one good news in our community, we have enough sport area. You don't have to spend that much money and long time to eventually your shore system. I think it might be another 5 years. But when you get tomorrow, because you don't want all the virus to go to your basement, do you? Everybody here is saying no. Check valve is not the solution. The reason being check out require maintenance. Maintenance could cause damage on the check valve, then cause damage on the pipe. Eventually, we have to pay more money to fix the small problem. So the problem solution should come from the city, come from DEP, not us. So that's why when you do a next planning, you should more consultant with us to provide a better solution and quick solution right now. I don't think budget is a problem. So we require your more hearing, your solution meeting with us. So to consult our opinion, we need to do it quicker and faster. Of course, for long-term perspective and short-term perspective as well. Because I really want to set up a good example in our fishing community, enjoy the fast pace of development, not just uphill, downhill as well. We also set a good example for the whole city in the South same kind of problem, even the whole nation. We can each set up problem and solution, from DEP, and community, all will go together, including all the funding sources like the government, and our revenue stream, from the bond or whatever paper you have, so that we expect it. And then I can see how we go from there, not just the solution you provide for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
对这先生所说的话，他是叫我们环保局来说的话，不是光有个计划，只是希望你的计划快一点。要是等个5年、10年、20年来说的话，对我们来说的话，社区来说的话是没有什么大用途。所以他是希望我们来说的话，计划做快一点，还有什么事情跟我们社区来聊，谢谢。
So, a couple of things that were raised that I want to point out. One was about the budget, and the budget is an issue. During the 2 years of the COVID pandemic, we raised our water and sewer rates 0. Couldn't raise any more money because people were out of work and there was a pandemic. This past year, we raised our water rates half the rate of inflation. So while costs for DEP are going up for power and chemicals, again, it's a challenge to do all this work. Again, it's needed, but we really need that federal and state money that we haven't seen in decades. So budget has been a challenge. We'll continue to work. The other good point he made is about retention basins. We've done a lot of this in Staten Island, where we have a lot of open area that can be converted into these big holding ponds, these pools that you see elsewhere, and they work great. They're called bluebells. We want to do more of that in Queens. The problem is we may not have the property currently to do it. Congressman May mentioned when she spoke about maybe potentially there are some properties that need to be bought out, that we really don't have a good drainage solution. And if we go ahead and do those buyouts at some future point, maybe those areas can be converted into these bluebells. So that's another thing that we're looking at in this study.
对我们来说的话，在先生说到我们3来说的话，我们有这些大的这些像浴缸的这些东西，可以来说能来用装雨水。可是我们黄昏区来说的话，目前来说没有这些那么大的地方来说，所以我们有一些想法是说，有一些地方如果是真的不能修或者不能更改，还会用淹水的话，有可能我们有一次来说，或者联邦来说，有可能会想到给这些地方买下来，而之后再来更改，所以这个也是一个想法。
Unfortunately live on Peck Avenue, so I have 2 questions and 2 comments. I understand you don't have the budget, but do you have the plan and you're waiting for the budget, or don't you have the plan? That's my first question. And my second question has to do with the sidewalk green infrastructure programs, right along them. Some of them are very pretty, but a lot of them are full of weeds. They pool, the soil is very hard. They pool when it rains, so are they actually serving its purpose? And who's responsible for maintaining them?
Two very important questions. So one is how do we plan for, if we don't have the money in the budget to actually do the construction? And it is sort of a chicken and an egg. And we have not in the past said, well, even though we don't have the money in the budget to do construction, let's at least get a plan out, and we'll know if we do get the money, we'll be ready. And we've never really done that. We need to do that more and more, it's just have those ready. So for this area, we have Dewberry now, we hired them last year as a consultant, and they're doing this master plan for the area, they're collecting all that information. So we're doing that now, and hopefully the funding will come quicker than, later than for construction. So that was the one question. The other thing about these rain gardens, I mentioned we have 11,000 of these curbside rain gardens, bioswales. So the maintenance of it, the way we had intended to do it, the way we have been doing it, is hiring what we call city seasonal park workers. So they only work half the year during the growing season. We hire them essentially at minimum wage to do that maintenance and clean up. The model, we've tried it for the last few years, it's not really working well. We don't need more full-time employees, which is another budget issue, to hire full-time staff, with the hiring freeze that OMB has imposed on all the city agencies and the pay. We're trying, well, we know the current model doesn't work.
Just a quick question. The catch basins in the winter freeze, so the water can't get into it. So, another issue, right?
各位跟你们问到，他来说的话，他有两个问题。第一个，他说我们来说的话，我们对这区的 budget 来说的话是不够钱，还是连计划都没有？我们来说的话，这能回答，我们经常回答的是，我们是有这计划，只是目前来说的话，这计划来说的话，已经在走这个程序了。第二，我们这个钱来说的话，是希望联邦还有州政府会有一个拨款下来，我们按我们自己来说的话，会拿到这笔钱。第二个问题，他问的就是，上你们有说到的11000个微高的来说的话，这是怎么样？因为他说有的是张调，有的有垃圾站门，到底是谁在处理？大部分我们第一年来说的话，造这个微高的时候是有工程师他们第一年会处理，之后我们如果有问题的话，我们打311帮忙管理这边的。
And Karen just reminded me, if you see a rain garden, it's a really, really poor condition, call 311 and we'll get on the list and try to get someone out.
James Strickers, recently had a rain garden put in front of my house. And I think you're defeating the purpose because you're getting very little water into that rain garden. The solution to that is very simple. You cut a trench close to the sidewalk in the street so raw water could go to the drains. The way you have it now, very little water is going to get in there. And you really should do it from one end of the street all the way down to the other end. So with many of the basins, 10 inches of water. Just relying on the pitch of the sidewalk, which is not enough, it should be a higher pitch to get more water into it, but also the pitch of the street into a little angle just against the curb to flow down the street, very little. So that would be one solution. The other solution to homes that have a pitch going down to their garage is very simple. All you need is like a mini speed bump, a little strip that's taken on both sides that can connect the sidewalk and the side and the driveway going down. I mean, that would divert some of the water to the sidewalk to the street, prevent it from going down to the house, which is so simple. But you guys have to implement and make it serious.
Two great points. So about making the streets as drains, the entire street, like we've actually done pilot studies and then we've done some installation with the New York City Department of Transportation called permeable pavement. And along the parking lanes in certain streets, we've been putting in these permeable, rather than just having asphalt where the water runs into the catch basin, the ground and the pavement absorbs the water. We've been trying that out. They seem to be working really good. They require maintenance because we periodically have to have a mechanical suction vac to come up and pull the grid out, but we're going to do more and more of that. So that's one. The other thing about the speed bumps,
Not as big, small ones.
yeah, so what we started doing, the mayor funded us DEP, we bought a bunch of these inflatable berms, you put your hose in it, fills with water, it's like a big sausage. We've got a bunch of them, happy to get those to the council member and when I have an event, we can hand them on. Yeah, okay, good, awesome.
Councilmember has 200 of them, so we're going to give out. So if you don't have our emails, please get our emails, and then we'll be doing it next week. We have 200 to give out.
apartment, because basements are not meant to be lived in as residents and rented out. And I'm sure they're not reporting it to the IRS for income. But the problem is not only a safety and fire issue, it's a flood issue. So you can't just convert them into housing space. A lot of them have low ceilings, a lot of them don't have upgraded electricity and upgraded plumbing. It's ridiculous to allow basements to get legalized because you're on housing. Find housing, build housing, but don't allow basement apartments to be used that way. Otherwise, you'll be arrested, come by and say, hey, you've got people living there, I just keep declaring that. It's a big problem. Very easy for them to find out.
Thank you.
说到两个问题，一个是我刚说到的，因为这个微高点，他说的他家里人说这个，那个这个东西不是麻的。我们的微高点我们有另外一种设施，也是像地面一样的，它只是在里面有几个洞，它跟普通的地沟差不多的。它这个它也可以装来说的话，它这个东西也是可以拿雨水也可以接雨水。第二个问题他说的话，他是感觉 basement 的那些住宅，他是感觉不合法。 他还是说，如果税务局去查的话，他会问你这个收入从哪里来，怎么样来的，所以他也是感觉这来说的话也是微微谢谢，谢谢大家。
Thank you for coming out. My name is Geraldine Holt and Shirley Bryan. We represent the Universal Tenant Association, 168 apartments. And as my heart go out to the homeowners at this last, storm that we have, I just want to let you know that apartment dwellers have the same problem too. I live on the 6th floor, and I didn't think anything was going to happen to my apartment, but my toilet turned into a monster, and it scared me so bad. The water came up, and on my terrace, the water came in my apartment to my neighbors. We was destroyed. And our landlord will not take responsibility for what we lost. I lost a beautiful bathroom that I fixed up myself. And then our curtains and our ceilings was all yellow. They did paint over that. And another thing, we have new people that are moving in our buildings a lot. From Far Rockaway, South Bronx, and everything. And our landlords have the nerve, and sir, maybe you can help me with this. They're charging people for water. And the tenants, one tenant pays $1,900 a month for 1 bedroom. And she has to pay water bill. And if you don't pay the landlord for the water, then he's not accepting your rent. And that breaks my heart. I don't have to pay it. Me and Shirley have been living here, me 49 years, and she probably 50. Colton Street and 45th Avenue. So if you could just give me a little information about, can landlords order you to pay for water, regular water, and also, are they responsible for my damage and my, I fixed it up because it's been a couple of years, maybe a year ago, but shouldn't they be responsible for the damage in my apartment? Because I didn't even think that it was going to happen to me. I'm on the 6th floor, I have a terrace, but the toilet turned into a demon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I'll start with the water question, and that's, I haven't heard that before, so please, if you can let Karen know what the address is, we'll go investigate that. In some condos and some co-ops where individual units have their own water meter, they get their own bill, but it doesn't go through the landlord, so it sounds strange. Yeah.
And we have a wind stabilization apartment building, and the old time tenants like me, but not the short. These people that pay so much money for rent, and we are different, that we're very diverse and loving community, and everybody comes up to me, every time I pay water. That doesn't sound right.
And we'll follow up with housing preservation on the other issue.
这女孩子问到她是住45大道头的，她来说的话，她是住6楼。她说她的厕所跟魔鬼上身一样的，那时候下雨 之前他来说又漏水，后来他的房东还有收他的邻居的水单，所以他问我们怎么帮他处理一下，我们都会拿他的资料跟他联系，谢谢大家。
My name is Marie Pemberton. We live on 190th Street between 46th and 47th Avenue. And each storm that comes, it gets worse and worse. 22 years ago when we moved in, we get a little water, there's too much snow, we went with the first rain. I had a cave, we got 10 grand for check valve, house trap, back water flow valve. Prior to that, somebody came, New York City DEP, and didn't put one of the gardens in, they put some water basin in front of our home. Once they put that water basin in, that's when we started to flood it every time it rained. Had a plumber come in, and how convenient. The plumbing into the house would go, the pipe, because that they're bagging, the constant bagging that they put that in. How convenient is 1 foot on my side. $80,000 to repair what was just done for my house. 2 weeks ago, flooded another 2.5 inches. I'm asthmatic, my daughter's asthmatic, and now they're telling me I need another $30,000 if I want to fix that 1 foot pipe that the city broke, or the contractor, DEP, whoever put that base in front of my house, they had no flooding issues until that thing was put in front of my house. Myself and my next door neighbor, for every inch my neighbors get in the storm, we get a foot, the two of us, because that broken pipe affects myself and him. I've had your office come to my home and tell me to go and get a rubber piece and put it through all the way. When I contacted my plumber, he said, "Marie, that's illegal, and you get caught, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble." So that was the advice that your office gets. So what else am I supposed to do? How do I protect my family? How do I protect my asthmatic daughter? And my life savings, everything was just put into my house. So 2 weeks ago, okay, for alarms, for water alarms, to be woken up in a panic like that, to have to come downstairs for it to be coming to the toilet all over again. The anxiety, storms come, I work 6 blocks from my house on Berlin Boulevard, and this is the second time I know we flooded, and we just flooded again with the storm. So it's progressively getting worse. So we can talk about what we're going to repair, or where's it going to stop, and who's going to help all of us. FEMA, nothing. All this, a whole $5,500, the 1100 for FEMA, and the money from my insurance, you know what they consider that? They consider that a backup from the toilet bowl. You know what that did? That paid the dumpsters that came to my house when my husband and I had to rip out the basement. So what else do we do? Because I didn't have any of these problems until they came and put that water basin in front of my home.
Well, so Vito, he's one of our supervisors for field operations. If you go talk to him, he'll go out there personally tomorrow to look at it, see what we need to do.
I appreciate it. Thank you for helping us.
How are you today? First of all, my name is Mike Ferraro. I live on 153rd Street. I want to thank everybody here for coming out. This is something that had to be done probably years ago. A little backstory. My grandparents moved into the house 1956, 57. Right after that, there was a flood. Maybe after that, every other year, there was a flood. I can go on countless amount of times that we had floods. Early 2000s, late 90s, there was another flood. Almost as bad as I. It was maybe up to my mother's shoulders. It's not that big compared to now, which is 6-7 feet. I was trapped in the house. My brother, my mother, we were all trapped. And there's nothing that can be done. Fast forward to now to last year. There's a little one right here, 2 years old now. I was trapped, not at home. She was at home. I couldn't get there for about 13 hours. That's my story. But let's, I was talking to a bunch of people, even last week or 2 weeks whenever the flood happened, there was numerous amounts of calls to 311 for the DEP to come and check on the floods where all the problems were. They come, they look, nothing. They close it, they said nothing was a problem. Obviously, water's gonna drain. What check it out. So it was checked maybe 2 weeks ago, right after the flood happened. Before that, it was checked right after Ida. Before that, early 2000s. What can we do about that as well? And then going to what you said prior, with the street cleanings. We had a street cleaning in my entire 30 years living there once. And that was last year. What can we do about getting involved with the DOT to get more street cleaning in there, as well as us helping out doing the sewer cleaning, as you guys to help us get these streets clean? Because I'm not taking more funds. Paying us out to move out is something I can't afford. It may be the easiest route. I can't do anything about it. If you're going to give me a small amount of money to split between 2-3 people, that's going to get me worse. It's going to get me on the streets. And that's something I need some clarification for, because obviously this is Queens. We are the most diverse area. This is something that needs to be done. We don't want to leave Queens. This is the most convenient area for a lot of people. And it's somewhere I love, somewhere I want my kids to love. I want to stay in this area. But I can't do it without everybody's help. But going back to Ida, that was the start. This is a great stepping stone going forward, but it should have been done years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And yeah, thanks for highlighting that it's not just basement down. It's life-threatening, these floods, and we need to move forward and upgrade the systems. And again, thank you for that. And as far as the buyouts are concerned, we did some of these after standing. It was market value, so we're not, no one's going to get low.
那先生说到说他们那个排水来说的话，排水道来说的话，它是经过，他看过经过2次，一次是去年大雨的时候经过一次，后来2个礼拜之前又经过一次，之后都没经过。那如果你们有这些问题的话，你们可以来311之后会来我们机构，我们会派人出去，我们就来得到。第二个问题他们问的话，他是说，我们刚有说了，如果你们有可能。 我们那个地方带的话，你是怎么样给我们？一般来说的话，我们希望方便大众就是现在的房子的估价是多少？如果买的话，其实这个价格，那我们以前3底发的时候，我们有这样做。
I just wanted to add to that. I understand that. This is Olivia. I just wanted to add on to yes, the buyout would be the minimum you said it was? The market value.
Yeah, well, we did understand the we identified areas where it wasn't appropriate for folks to live in.
Right.
This is close shoreline, and then it was just whatever the assessed market value was. That's what people were all in.
Yeah, I mean again, the market value, of course, it's gonna go to nothing, obviously. If it's split into 3 ways for us, obviously, that's a different story. It still gets nothing. And I'm on the 2nd floor now, but we were on the 1st floor last year. There's no basement, there's nothing. It's literally the sewer from the streets to us. Basically, so we really have nothing else to do. We're losing literally everything from when we moved in to have absolutely nothing. Going back to even now, we just finished fixing up the 1st floor where my brother lives. Now we have to fix it again. And it's getting tired. Talking to people, like my mother, talking to my brother, it's ruining us. We're putting every little thing that we can into the house to say, all right, well, thanks for letting us live here. Now we're screwed. Because now there's going to be another flood, and now everything we just put into it is going back out down the drains. Literally.
We saw after the September 13th flood, we were out, and people are just exhausted. We get it, really.
Right, and it's going from 30 years to 60 years. And it's if we can't afford to live, how can we afford to rebuild? That's really, it's hard to do, Thank you.
I'm sorry I'm back because I forgot to translate in Chinese. I want to speak in Chinese. 我刚才跟他们讲的哈，就是我把那个问题指出来，因为我原来就在环保局做嘛。然后他刚才那个环保局的官员，他自己也是说，我们的地区是离海平面21尺，并不是说我们在那个海边或者什么比那个海平面还低，那个时候是很难处理的。可是我们的问题不在这个东西，他们一直跟我们讲，我们那个水势低，我们水势一点都不低，所以我们也不用害怕我们的房子好像不好意思跟人家讲，我们不是，主要是他们环保局的那个水管，他自己也承认，他那个水管只能够载流1.75寸1个小时的下雨量，然后环保局他自己要求人家的标准的那个设计是5.95的那个1寸每小时的降雨量，你除一下，他的那个他给我们供的那个水管根本就是1/3的流量都不到，这就是问题的所在。他们什么买房子啊，什么弄那个小小的一个地方去排水啊，这个就是我们解决问题的关键的问题，就是让他们给我们把这个水管给造好了，而且这是他们的责任，按照那个市政府的那个就是按照市政府的那个规定，这是他们的义务，必须要给我们种好这个水管的，所以希望我们大家多点投诉，要把这个问题解决了。Also, I want to ask, because I know that the DEP spent a lot of money doing study, and now you said you need to study again. I'm really disappointed because I know that I left the DEP in 2006. Just right before that, you spent $2 million studying the sewer, the same problem, and no solution. So why are you spending more money in studying for what? The $2 million I believe is enough to build an overflow sewer for us. If not fundamentally giving us a big sewer, we ask for an overflow sewer so that you can take the extra flow in the summer for us. We don't have water again. But not every time it rains, we get scared. I'm pretty scared. My husband almost got killed. The time I wake up on the island, I went down and we went on the truck. The water was up at the top of the basement. My first response was, is he still alive?
Hello, my name is Eddie Abrams. I live in this neighborhood. I do everything I can to hold my neighborhood together. I want to be working together with this whole area. We all work together and we live. And that's what we want to do. I want private wall, they call it. And before I leave the house, we stayed here for 20 years. So we put an extension on the house and we got as they were doing it, they put a dry well in my backyard in the part of the house. I'm sorry. The contractor put a dry wall in my backyard. $10,000. I never had no more water in my house. Now what I'm telling you, that's $10,000. I guess if you wanted to spend that kind of money, you could do it. You know, and if you wanted to lay there and stay in that house, you're going to have to do something. So I said that we should get some kind of discount. We can get half the money for getting this, well, and you can stay there and live for it. Right now, you have to do something. This is an emergency. How much you want to try and fight this water? You have to do something. And that's what I did, and I'm glad I did, because I don't have no water coming in my house. We're all keeping on my block. Everybody got to get right, water. Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie.
My name is Kathy Kennedy. I'm with the Kissena Park Civic Association, the Queens Civic Congress, and the Queens Community grandparents were the original owners of my house, which is 1 block north of Kissena Park. Since the sewers were put in approximately 1952, and I say that because I can remember the streets being dug up when we would visit my grandparents. I've lived in the house since 1954. We have never had a flood. Yes, we have water in the basement. That comes in from foundation cracks because the land is reclaimed. However, I had 8 feet of sewage in my basement from Ida. I had more sewage on the 13th of this year. You asked for some constructive suggestions, and I do have one constructive suggestion that I'm actually addressing our elected officials. When those sewers were put in, Flushing was single-family detached houses with a very few 3- and 4-floor apartment buildings. Now Flushing is high-rise. We've got tens of thousands more people using the sewer system on a daily basis, and the sewers have not been improved. None of our infrastructure has been improved. I am asking that our elected officials stop all construction. We can't take any more people moving into Flushing until we fix the infrastructure. And the city council itself has the ability to suspend all variances, but you also have the ability to suspend as of right building because we've reached our capacity. And that's all I have to say.
Hi, my name is Lucia, and I live at 153rd Street in Rose Avenue. And I would first like to say thank you for your team for creating the presentation regarding future storm and flooding preparedness. So we live in a really low elevation area. We're downhill. So when flood comes due to rainfall, it doesn't matter if it's heavy or light. We are experiencing flood basement and first floor, but it's not just based on sewage. We're receiving outside water, like from parks. We're surrounded by parks on all 4 sides. So we're just getting water from outside sources, not just sewage. So I don't understand how sewage problems are going to help flooding. And now, when we're getting ready for the future, we're not going out. We would go to cinemas normally or go to parties, but now we're not doing that anymore. We're scared and worried if anything would happen to our house, we would get flooded. So my concern is that fixing the sewage is not enough. We would also have to help level up the area because we are surrounded all 4 sides with parks, and those water are coming to our area. So for future, we're not going out anywhere. We have 3 vehicles. 3 vehicles each time. Me, my mom, and dad would have to move out far away because we're not going to let them go. Previous hurricane, I know we had 3 vehicles already damaged. They're completely broken down.
I remember being out there and no surprise to you, that's the most challenging probably 6 blocks that we've had here. You do get overland flow, not just up through the
Yeah, and that's not the only problem. We have youngsters and elders citizens in my house. They're legally blind. During Hurricane Ida, it was hard for me. My mom wasn't there at all. My mom was stuck outside in water up to her neck level for 6 hours straight outside. We didn't even allow her to go inside. She was in the opposite side of my house. She wasn't able to get it because of the water. After she parked her car somewhere else, she couldn't come back to our house. So imagine staying 6 hours outside where my younger brother, who's only 10 years old, how am I supposed to explain him? She's outside stuck in the water. He's going to get worried. He's going to start crying.
Again, we talked about how people lost their lives. Your block, the mayor de Blasio was out there.
We need to get this a solution as soon as possible. 10 years, I don't know. People are going to move out. And it's not just for us, talented people, for income people who wants to live in these houses. It's not fair for them either.
Thank you. We recognize that.
We've already had that issue too. I'm with you on the block.
Yes, yes.
The people next to us just moved in. People
Right.
across the street from us just moved in.
Right.
And they're not told anything about flooding. it's hard to not tell them, like,
Exactly.
prepare yourself, get like a floating bed, do something, because
I don't know if you're not gonna believe this, but we have our passports, mission paper, and all those important documents in a suitcase right now. Because last time they were fully damaged and we don't want them to get flooded and get in our crystal, we packed them in a suitcase because just in case anything happens, we are running upstairs, bringing that important stuff. What else are we gonna bring? Clothes or clothing? We can't do that. Only important stuff. And now I can't even. That September 13th at 4 o'clock I woke up. I had class 9 o'clock in the morning, and I travel all the way to Munster. I have to commute. I couldn't go to class because who's there to help me besides mom and dad? And I have elders. I have to be there for them.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ben. I have to say that I'm very disappointed by what I saw today. The solutions presented largely are to spend our own money. And I was also very disappointed to hear that even though you don't have the budget in place, you don't even have a plan that's waiting for the budget to be put in place. Now, I think the worst solution that I've seen here is to put a barrier in front of our driveways. I live on 58th Avenue. There were some people on my block that almost died. If I had put a barrier in front of my driveway and kept water out my basement, perhaps we would put it in their basements, and they would have died. And that would be blood on my hands. Please come up with solutions that can help all of us. Don't put the onus on us to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
They call me Uncle Johnny. I've been here for 40 years. The last 10 were very problematic, and I know you know, but I want everybody here to know, a million years ago, a glacier came down the Hudson Valley. It stuffed on Long Island, and it dumped all its stuff right here where you're sitting. The lake in Kissena Park was carved out by a glacier. These people here cannot do better than Mother Nature. This neighborhood, Flushing, is because it was called Flushing by the Dutch who came here originally, which meant salty marsh. It is still a salty marsh. We still have underground streets. Many years ago, they took the Kissena corridor and they made it a water channel going into Flushing Bay Lake. We all have problems when we live here. Me personally, I will install a sump with a pump and a backflow preventer that I get access to. So it would be nice if the government gave me a couple of dollars towards that $4,000 bill, but I am tired of cleaning out my basement and having my family exposed. The only answer is for you. We the people, no matter what country you came from, you are here today, and the change in America is in the ballot box. You have to support the politicians and the bureaucrats who are hampered by budgets to do for you. And the way to do that is to stand up, come to meetings, be nice, contribute, vote, and hand out a comp cards for our politicians. I want to say thank you to all of you, and I especially want to say thank you to all of you.
And vote for him.
I want to thank all of you for coming up tonight, but before we end, I'm just going to bring the hot seat. I have two follow-up questions. This master plan, is there a timeline for this master plan?
Yeah, so we're moving along. We have a few options already. Some of them are the $10 billion, raise everything, and we know we're not going to be able to afford that, but we're looking at how we can carve out pieces. But we will get you within, I'm going to say by Thanksgiving, we will get you a draft of that.
OK， 所以我刚才问他说有这个计划，对不对？我们哪时候可以得到这个计划？他说在感恩节，我们因为会看到第一步 first draft 这个计划。那我们办公司一收到这个计划，我们会让大家知道。The second question I have is, we talked a little about the buyout. Is there, and I know it's very preliminary, but is there any criteria of determinations that you guys should use? And you could say like what happened after Sandy, and that was like an indication.
We actually have this expert consultant that we brought in. His name is Eric Sanderson. He wrote the book data, which is a history of how New York City looked 250 years ago, when, as you heard from Uncle, these inland streams and lakes, wherever they were, those are still there. They're just buried over, and people built on top of them. And Eric Sanderson is telling us that some of these areas are going to be impossible to drain, and these may require us to just bring that land back to the way it was in the 1700s. And so those may be the buyout areas, and we're still looking at where they are and what we need best to do.
刚才我也是问他说，我们有说过，可能一些地方需要政府买下这个房子，因为那个地方真正不可以有房子在上面。所以我是要知道，像我们是哪一个地方？那他是说是看历史，有时候那些地方根本以前都没有在房子上面。那这个我知道现在很多这也是个问题，我一有消息的话就让大家知道。And I really want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank DEP. I want to thank your whole team for coming out. This is not easy. I understand that. You are at the end of the messenger to us today, so thank you. I want to thank Tommy for translating. Not easy. 我们现在也是要感谢 DEP 今天过来。And I do know that, I mean, there's a lot of conversations here about different agencies that we will work with, the Parks Department, DOP, and NYPD. I would say all of us here have heard of that. And I can say, like the congresswoman, the senator here today, I know we are committed to helping out this neighborhood. 那我就结束说，谢谢大家。那我也知道今天我们听说很多话，好像不是只是 DEP， 我们可以跟东联、DOP 跟那个警察局一起合作。那我会议的翁昭文跟我们的参议员陈立，我们是会合作帮助这个社区。谢谢大家。
Yeah, just one more question. You folks just talking about the buyout of some houses in the very south of it. It's only selling for 1 to 2 apartment or selling the entire community house. As I said,